What up? It's DeAndre Official. I just wanted to say thank you so much for checking out the content that's posted here by RTC. If anything inspires you, please hit the subscribe button and share it with at least 10 people. I know you know at least 10 people that needs to see this. This was a dope live session with licensed therapists, Alana Moore. We went live and we talked about the war against codependency. If you know anybody that's dealing with codependency, if you feel like you yourself are dealing with codependency, please check this out and share it with as many people as possible. Once again, hit the subscribe button. I love y'all, and this is how you revolutionize the culture. Straight up. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited. Super excited.
Me too.
I did not bring Kleenex, so don't go too hard on me. I meant to. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing good.
All right, cool. Can I take a quick deep breath and a prayer real quick before we get started? You mind?
Be great.
All right, cool. So on the count of 3, everybody, let's take a deep breath. And we're gonna just do one. Inhale slowly, and then exhale slowly. And as you exhale, let's just thank God for breath. Thank God for giving us the ability to breathe and waking us up this morning. I'll give us a few seconds of silence and I'll pray us in. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Sit in silence just for a second. Father, thank you so much for waking us all up this morning. Thank you for designing this conversation that we're about to have. Father, I'm just asking that the Holy Spirit guide these words, guide the questions and the answers, so that more households will be filled with peace and more people can become closer to you through the methods that we're going to be speaking about and increasing their mental health. I ask all this in the powerful name of Jesus. Amen. All right, cool. Oh, shoot. Place is lit. Okay. So, for a minute, I've been, we kind of planned this like a little while ago, and I've been trying to figure out like what we were going to talk about. And I feel like the Lord has been exposing a lot of codependency around me. And I've been seeing a lot of people dealing with it. So I think this is a good topic to talk about. And I think the last time you were on the podcast, I think we mentioned codependency like a little bit. Yeah, we started dropping some gems, and I was like, hold on, shoot. So I want to hop back in that. So tell me, like, what exactly is codependency?
So codependency, formal definition says it's like an increased reliance on someone.
Increased reliance. Okay.
Increased reliance on someone or something. So in my notes, I added that it's not just an increased reliance on someone, it's also it can be an increased reliance on something. And it feels like it's almost impossible to do without. When you have codependency, that person, that thing feels almost impossible to do without.
When you say something, you mean like something material, like it could be on a car or something like that?
It could be anything. It could be money. It could be food. It could be a lot of different things. People can be addicted or codependent and rely heavily on anything.
Yeah, when you said food, then I was like, yeah. I didn't know how that can happen. So you mean like in the area of like emotional eating and stuff like that can fall in the same category of codependency?
Yeah, it can. If you have like a heavy reliance, like you feel like you need it and you can't. I mean, you need food and you can't do without it. But I mean, excessively, it can. But that falls more to the category of addiction. But codependency is a type of addiction to some.
Oh, it is considered an addiction.
Yes, it's like a type of. It's like an addictive attachment or behavior. So.
Dang, man. So how can we recognize it? What are some signs that we can see? The main thing I keep thinking about is like people in relationships, who end up dating somebody who's codependent.
Yes.
So what kind of signs would they show, like if I was in a relationship with somebody who was codependent?
So a huge sign of a codependent person is people pleasing, right?
Oh, sure.
And because when you are codependent, you want people to stick around. You know what I mean? You have a dependence on their presence there. So you're serving others for the intention of them staying. Like you have a fear of them going somewhere, so you'll do whatever it takes for them to stay.
Well, so does that mean like your service is not even really genuine then?
Yeah, and I have in my notes, I said servitude is beautiful when done with the right intention. However, service and codependency is, saying, I'm doing this because I need you to stay.
Right.
So
y'all take notes. Take notes. Servitude is beautiful when it has the right intention, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And in codependency, you usually will see some people pleasing, some self-sabotage, or something called victimization, which really just means you put yourself in a position to say, well, you're hurting me, you're doing this to me. Why would you, becoming the victim of something, making someone feel bad, you know what I mean, so that they can cater to you or they can stay,
Oh, shoot.
So that's another sign of it when if you feel yourself doing that or see your partner doing that, kind of making you constantly feel guilty, that's another sign of codependency.
So that's like, so almost like somebody who's consistently guilt tripping somebody. Like we would say that person possibly is codependent.
Yeah, because, for example, if somebody does something wrong and they're constantly like, but you did this to me, but this happened and all of this stuff, instead of taking accountability, they might have a fear, well, this person's going to walk away. If I finally am accountable and say, yeah, I cheated, yeah, I hurt you, yeah, I did this, that person might walk away. But if I turn it on them and guilt trip and start making them feel bad, they'll stay. You know what I mean? So sometimes, again, it's not like people are actively thinking about it, but that's what people do so that that person doesn't walk away. You know?
Well, tell me this then, because now that sparked another question. If somebody's doing that I would just use myself as an example. If somebody's doing that to me and I do stay, like, what does that say about me?
That's a good question. It's a good question because it's not that you can't be forgiving. You know what I mean? It's not that you can't be forgiving. But sometimes codependent people are in a relationship together without realizing it. So you both need each other to stay for maybe different reasons. So if you're constantly accepting someone back, maybe out of fear of being alone, then you are on that person in a relationship, no matter how toxic it is, So it might mean that you are codependent if you're constantly receiving, toxic behavior, and just because you don't want that person to leave, then you have to ask yourself, why am I still here? And see what that reason is.
Right. So most of the time when you start like deciding to have like self-reliance, self-confidence, personal strength, it's you kind of coming out of the stage of being codependent on somebody, right? It's like that confidence kind of gives you the ability to kind of, I ain't gonna say like be a loner, but like you're okay with yourself. You're okay with you.
Yeah, you can stand alone, right? It'll hurt if somebody leaves your life. Like, it's a natural human emotion. It might hurt, but you're not gonna break and fall, because like I was born alone. I can stand alone. You know what I mean? Which goes to later with your dependence on God. But you should be able to stand alone, because if you feel like you can't stand without a certain person, you know what I mean, then you have to kind of reassess that relationship behavior, because that's very unhealthy, that you feel like I need this person here to be able to function in my daily life. It shouldn't get to that point. I mean, that person can be a benefit to your life for sure, but I need them, and without them, I wouldn't really be me. You kind of have to assess for some codependency.
So tell me this, like, all right, so I know I jumped into relationships. Like, if you're codependent and you're alone, I hope this is not a difficult question. Let's say if you're codependent and you are alone, right? Like, you don't have the people in your life that you want. Like, what kind of thought process does that person have? Like, how do those people think about themselves when they are alone? Like, do they see themselves as incapable or something like that?
In singleness that have codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of thoughts that happen when you're single and you're codependent. So, your behavior might look like constantly seeking out to others for validation. Could be friends, could be family, could be romantic partners, but just doing whatever it takes to get another partner there or to get somebody there close to you again, you know? Because I've seen it in singleness. I've counted people in singleness. I've been there, you know what I mean? Transparently. And it feels like it's very hard for you to sit alone and be alone without reaching out to somebody and having some, you know, getting some sort of validation. And if you don't get it, then it feels really depressing because you don't have that, you know? Instead of enjoying the solitude with yourself and enjoying who you are, you feel like you need somebody to tell you how great you are to feel good about yourself in those moments. You know, like your thoughts are so negative that they're not serving you. So you're waiting for somebody else's positivity to come to you so you can feel better about yourself. So that alone time is torture for somebody that doesn't love themselves. You know what I mean? Because you want somebody else to be there and to validate them.
So that also means like some of the like let's say if a relationship is led by like sex or something like that, like sometimes you use those types of things to keep people around too, right? Like somebody who's codependent might go around having sex with everybody to try to keep them there, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah, especially if they know in the past that that's worked, you know?
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, I know that this person wants sex, so I'm going to do whatever serves them, even if it doesn't serve you.
Even if it doesn't serve me. Dang.
Yeah. So, yeah, you start exhibiting those type of behaviors or giving gifts or just going above and beyond for people that you know aren't interested in the same way you really want them to be interested, but you're saying, well, at least they're here. So you'll accept, you know, you'll accept the bare minimum, basically. You know what I mean? So your standards will fall because in codependency, you're like, I'll just accept anything at this point.
So that means even like abuse, huh? Like psychological abuse, physical abuse. You'll even take things like that.
There's definitely an abusive relationship can be a codependency for different reasons. Again, it could be just wanting someone there. It could be money. You know, that person is carrying the, you know, finances of the household. It could be people have definitely stayed in abusive relationships because it's codependency. I'm not going to say all the time, but a lot of times.
But you have you seen it like in your work personally? Like, oh, okay, this person is, you know, you're staying because you have been manipulated, but also you have codependency issues. Like have you seen that when sitting with people?
Oh, for sure. I've counseled people that say, like, I can't leave or I don't want to leave because I've never been on my own. I've never been by myself.
But they'll actually say it out loud.
They'll say it out loud. Yeah. Sure. Because it's like a space for them, you know, so they'll say, I've never.
Well, that's what you want, right? You want them to be able to say
you want that realization, so that's good. I'm like, okay, so you're recognizing that. So is there a fear there? I have them identify. Is there something? Is there an apprehension there to be by yourself?
So you do try to get them to identify a specific fear?
A specific fear. And usually it's fear of failure, being on their own, or they're not good enough. They've developed a belief that they're not good enough on their own, you know?
So we do have a question real quick. And this actually was going to lead me into my next question. So Stephanie asks, good morning, Stephanie. What's up? She said, as parents of young children, how can we raise our children to not develop this trait?
That's very, very good. One thing I would say, even as a parent, we want to make sure we don't have a codependent relationship with our child.
We got to check ourselves first, right?
You know, so we want to make sure we're not even enabling the child. Because sometimes, you know, parents get to the point where they're like, if I say this, if I do this, my child's not gonna love me as much or, you know, care as much. So we have to model that we're going to make decisions out of love, you know, and not out of codependency, not out of wanting to just please them. So we have to make decisions that are something that they need to hear, not that they want to hear. So you're already modeling, hey, I need to advocate for myself and say what I need to see, you know, instead of just always trying to please you. Because a child that always sees that is probably going to develop that, you know. Well, my mom always felt like she needed to do everything to please me. Now, you know, to love someone, I feel like I have to do whatever it takes to please them. So modeling it is number one. Number two, just independence, I would say. Teaching
You
your
said teach
child,
them independence.
yeah, to be independent, and then have real conversations with them. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
they're young, if they're not, you know, if their friend doesn't want to be their friend anymore, if they're not invited to certain parties, different things like that, you have those conversations with them and say, I know it hurts. Allow them to process their emotions and say, I know that it hurts, but it's okay. You know what I mean? And this is how we can move on from it. Because again, teaching your child that like every time somebody hurts you, you have to keep, you know, that person there, keep that person around, all of these different things. That's codependent behavior. So teaching your child that it's okay to be hurt by somebody's actions, but to have boundaries. You know what I mean? If somebody's constantly hurting you or not serving you, it's okay to walk away from that friend,
Mm-hmm.
person. And these are the risks and benefits of keeping them around or the benefit of walking away from them. You know, teaching them very early that it's okay to walk away, you know, from somebody that's not good for them.
So how should we address like so dang, that just gave me like a flash of like what it would feel like if my daughter ever came home one day and was like, this friend of mine, it doesn't want to play with me anymore on the playground or something. Like, oh god, that hurt. But like, so, like, how do I address the friend? Like, do I say, oh, this person don't deserve you, or like, or like, how do I talk about the other person?
Well, you don't even necessarily have to say that. It's just okay. So she stopped deciding to play with you. You ask your child what their actions were. Did you ask her like, "Hey, why aren't you playing with me anymore?"
Ah, did you ask her? Okay, I like that. I like that. I like that. Right, right.
So have your child, you know, take action in the situation. See what the response was. If the response is that the person's like, well, "I just don't like it anymore," and it's like that hurts. Tell me how that feels to you. You know, to your child, ask them. Tell me how that feels. They said, you know what I mean, and then go over with them. Okay, well, who does God say you are? Who are? What do you believe about yourself? Do you believe that what they said was true? You know, and they'll say no and all of that. So we have to know that you are great. You are super fun to be around, but sometimes everybody's not going to get along. Sometimes people are going to walk away, even if you are a great person, and it's going to hurt, you know. But if she decides to do that, there are so many other people on the playground that you can play with. Why don't we try reaching out to somebody else tomorrow and see how that goes, you know? But instead of teaching them, well, let's chase after the friend that really doesn't want to be around me. You know what I mean? Now, you know? So teach them to stand on their own and know, well, I feel great. Even if my friend said she want to play with me, that doesn't say anything about me. It's just something about that, you know? So.
All right, so this is kind of funny. So have you ever seen this movie called He's Just Not That Into You? It's the
I've heard of it,
It's
but
kind of chick flicky. Blame my wife. It's not my fault, right? so some chick flicky stuff I'll sit down and watch because I am interested in like relationship patterns, right?
yeah.
And in that movie, it kind of carries the storyline of a girl. It starts her off as a child, and she gets hit by a little boy in the playground, and her mother tells her, "Oh, it's because he likes you." You know what I'm saying? He's treating you bad because he likes you, and she just grew up like chasing people who treat her bad and don't like her, right? So is that felt like codependent behavior? I was like, oh snap! Like she kind of made
Yeah,
herself
right. Okay,
codependent
well,
at a very young age.
he's showing it, even though I don't like it, you know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, you like being hit, so that's kind of like, well, just accept it because he likes you, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
And it's like, no, I tell my son all the time, if somebody is doing something you don't like, say, I don't like that, please, you know what I mean? Like, no, like, if you don't like it, say you don't like it. So teach your children to assert themselves and say, this is not what I like, you know, express your feelings about something. Don't hold them in because you want to please somebody else. Say, if you really don't like it, say, I
Don't
don't like
hold your feelings in because you want to please somebody else. Okay, I'm running with that one. I'm running with that one. Definitely. Definitely. Because I feel like this definitely goes into adulthood. Like you can spend your whole life never saying how you really feel about stuff.
it. Yes, it does.
I know, like as I'm saying, and I'm thinking about like moments in my life, like shoot, dang. So
Same. Yes, it
so
does.
it's funny. Mark, what's up, man? Mark just joined in, and there's a book that he's working on. And he asked me to read a piece of it yesterday. And one of the things that he mentioned in his book was like, in codependency, you kind of ask other people for permission to even do things in your own life, right? Have you seen that also in like your clients and stuff like that?
Yeah. I mean, and even in some couples, it's like permission to do the things that they want to do, like hang out with friends and things
Mm-hmm.
like, or go for a run. And what I've seen in relationships is that the partner that may be toxic or abusive will tell the codependent partner, like, no, I need you here. I need you here with the kids because I got to do what I got to do. You got to stay here, And they get
Oh, that's where that comes from. I've seen
married.
that.
It
Yeah.
does. Yeah. And the person feels like, I can't do anything or go anywhere without asking him, or he'll be mad, or she'll be mad. I'm not going to just say him.
Yeah.
Because, these partner could be like a female. So she'll be mad if I ask, can I do this? Can I do that? So you feel like you're walking on, I really had a client say, I'm walking on eggshells every moment down. And
Uh,
that feels terrible because you're not being your authentic self. So how could you be happy, walking on eggshells 24/7? You know what I mean? Just to put another person, but you're not happy at all. So you have to teach your children early. Say when you don't like something. Do not accept, poor behavior for like that. You know what I mean? Feeling like, well, I just want to be their friend, so I'll just do whatever. Because then they're gonna grow up to say, well, I just want to be this person's partner, so I'll just do whatever.
right.
So it's like, yeah, say how you feel for sure.
And I think also like what I've seen from a typical parent response is they bash the other person. You know what I'm saying? Talk about how bad the other person is for not liking it. I feel like that's not even really healthy. Like earlier when you mentioned it, you was like you kind of started reminding the child of their own value, right? So that's kind of more important, just remind the child of who they are, right?
Exactly. Keep going back to that because the hurtful thing as a parent I've seen is people might say things or label your child a certain way, and you have to teach your child to know who they are, to stand against, everything that, anything negative that somebody might say. And it's hard. They're human, so they're going to hurt. And it's so hard as parents because our children are going to hurt in different ways, but you want to teach them their value early, so that, okay, said that, but that's not true about me. Wait a minute. They did say that, but I don't do that. That's not how I'm like, so they don't internalize it. Because if you don't teach the value, then they're going to internalize it because they don't know who they are, So they're like,
Right.
maybe I am this, maybe I am that, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
and then grow up believing it. And a lot of us are guilty of doing that in some way, So.
Dang. So that means also maybe even like because I'm now it's got me thinking about like some relationships that I've had or even friendships that I had where people like internalize everything. You know what I'm saying? Like every time anybody says anything, they take it super hard. You know what I mean? Is that also like coming from that kind of space, growing up like that?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It definitely could be. It could be. Like, if you're internalizing everything and making it, and it feels like everything somebody is saying is against you, then you might have developed a mindset where it's like everybody is against me. You know what I mean? Maybe it was from childhood where it's like everybody's against me. Nobody likes me.
Nobody likes me. Yep, that's the term right there.
Yeah,
Nobody likes me.
exactly. And it sounds like a childlike thought, but we have them as adults.
Right, we do.
Like, right, nobody notices me right here, or I feel like people don't like me in this room, or they looked at me a certain way, so they must not like me. We do that still, but that comes from a belief that we have about ourselves. Now, that's when you have to check ourselves and say, okay, why am I thinking like this right now?
And that can kind of bring anxiety in our relationships, right? Like you're kind of on edge, like wondering what somebody thinks about you all the time, right?
So real. Yes.
Oh
It's
man.
that's exhausting because it's like everything that they say, it's like, they're like, what does that mean?
So like I saw somebody once say like even in conversation their anxiety goes crazy, like instead of them like it's almost like the opposite of being present, like they don't know how to be present really in conversation because they're constantly thinking like, okay, how do I respond to this? How do they want me to say this? You know what I'm saying? Do they want me to hug them? Do they want me to like the whole time, right? I know they gotta make it hard to listen to people. It's like
Yeah, okay, that's overthinking. Yeah, that's a good observation. That's overthinking. Yeah, it's like, okay, what is the best response that I can possibly have? And I've met people or been around people who they freeze and they don't say anything. And I'm just like, are you okay? You know, they're like, well, I was just thinking about the response, you know? And it's like, it ain't that deep, you know what I mean? Just say it out of your heart, give some empathy, but people really do everything like that.
I remember I used to not even like when somebody would say, well, what do you want me to say? I was like, I don't want to give you my opinion for what you want to say. I want you to think of it. Okay, you have another question about Stephanie. It says, can the love language of affirmations be misinterpreted as codependency? Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
That is such a good question because that is my number one love language. Let me just tell
affirmation?
you.
What words of affirmation? Yeah.
Sorry?
Words of affirmation?
Yeah. And words of affirmation for people who might not know is just appreciating, like feeling love when people give you affirming words, when they appreciate you, when they show appreciation verbally, you know, the different things that they really like about you, that you, who you are or what you do, but they say it verbally. You know, they can about how they feel about you. And can that be misinterpreted as codependency? That's a really good question because I have even thought about that in my own head. I'm like, as much as I love like validation from words, am I dependent on these words? And I think that's where you have to ask yourself. You know, it's like I like words of affirmation, but if I do something good and I don't get the validation, am I gonna feel like I didn't do a good job because I didn't do it? You know what I mean? Then you're dependent on hearing that every time you do something. I think that's when it becomes codependency. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm doing this. Somebody gonna say something really nice, you know? And then when they don't, you're let down. You're like, damn, I did a really good job. Like, nobody said, you know, nobody commented on this, you know, not great thing that I did. Like, maybe it wasn't that great. And you start questioning yourself when you don't get the words. That's when it comes codependent. And I know, based on experience, because I've been there, where I'm like, dang, like, I guess I didn't do a good job, you know? No, that is not true, but I just think that's a heavy dependence on words. But it's okay to like words. It's okay to appreciate being loved in that way. So that was a good question.
Dang, I see how much of a thin line that is now. Like, now that we're kind of talking about it out loud. Because I think even myself, that, you know, I appreciate words of affirmation too. And when I don't get them, sometimes I just feel like completely unseen. You know what I'm saying? Like I did it completely for nothing. So I guess it's like really when other people's actions make you question your own identity. Like that's not a good thing, right?
Yeah. And I think, like you said, we're all guilty of it. It's hard because some of us, we do feel like that. Like, dang, like you said, I feel unseen, or I feel like I'm not being heard. You know what I mean? It's okay to like feeling loved in that way. Like, I like when people affirm me, but you can like it, but you shouldn't need it. You know, yeah.
Right. Dang, that's why social media is so freaking dangerous. Right? Because some people need likes and need comments for every single post that they put up, right? It almost kind of creates that environment. Dang. So I remember when you were on the podcast, you started to mention like these terms about like parent-child relationships. You were saying, you were talking about different types of attachments, right?
Yeah.
Different type of attachments. So can you tell me like what are some of those negative attachments that you can have? Tell me some of the negative ones and tell me some of the positive ones actually.
So like a negative attachment could be a fearful attachment, avoidant, where you just avoid becoming attached altogether because maybe you tried, you know, as a child, you had a strong attachment and then, you know, the parent constantly let you down. So there's like a fearful one. And then
like you get afraid to get attached to any other person?
Afraid to get attached, so you'll like sabotage it so you can keep the barrier between yourself and another person. Because there's
sabotage.
Yeah. And then there's anxious attachment, which is codependency definitely falls within the anxious attachment. This person could be here. I'm very fearful of this person leaving. So I'm constantly overthinking what can I do so that they can stay. You know what I mean? So that is an anxious attachment. Those are the not so good ones. But from relationships that were, incongruent when you were growing up, or inconsistent, where maybe the parent was in and out of your life, they let you down a lot, things like that. Those type of attachments come from not so healthy parent-child relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And then secure attachment, the very positive one, is when you were secure in your relationship with your parent.
Secure attachment. Okay, so what can a parent do to cause a secure attachment?
What can they do? Well, they can constantly be present, and not be present, but present. Like, help their child feel seen. I see you. I want to spend time with you. I actively want to know you as my child. Not I just want to do things for you. I just want to cook. I want to take you places and all of that. But it's like, I actually want to spend quality time with you, get to know you, and affirm you. You know what I mean? And that's where it's healthy. You can affirm your child, tell them how great they are, build them up in that way, because they need that. They need their identity. And when a parent is present and able to say, I see you, and I see you, and I know you, because we spend so much time together, and I have a strong desire to get to know you as my child, to raise you as my child, to be the best you can be. That's when a child feels seen, like, wow, my mom or dad really pays attention to me, and discipline comes with that too. It's like, I'm not just going to let you do anything because I care about your well-being. So I am going to, implement some discipline. That's also secure.
That made me think about something. So, like, you said you worked in the school. No, you didn't work in the school system, right? Well,
I did before. That was in the past, though.
Okay. But I know you definitely worked with youth at church. I remember you did say that, right? So, right, and I don't think this is like new information, right? But children who are very undisciplined at home, right? Like, they're like the worst in public, right? It's like, so when you're not disciplining your child, I want to make sure I'm wording this correctly, or what kind of attachment does that cause between the parent and the child if the child is undisciplined by the parent? Does that also just make them feel like they're not as important? Because discipline kind of makes you feel right.
That's like uninvolved, parenting, like passive parenting is called. Like, just very relaxed, and like you can do what you want, but you have to ask yourself about the codependency too with the parent, because it's like, what's the reason you're not disciplining your child? Like, is it because you want to please and appease them? You know what I mean? And so,
you can not discipline your child because you want them to be your friend or something, huh?
You want that. He's like, no, like, maybe they've had enough of people not, being there for them, not liking them. So they're like, you know what? I'm going to give my child a free environment to do whatever they want, whenever they want, because me and my child are going to be close. Because the parent becomes dependent on that attachment. So they're like very loose structured, That's what it comes from. Or they could just be not involved. I mean, they could literally just be not present and not wanting to deal with it. But that's still unhealthy.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about I wanted to talk about this just a little bit. I've said this to you before. Like, I think the more I study mental health, the more I study psychology, the more I started to notice that you can have faith and not be mentally healthy, right? It's like I see the difference now. I was like, oh snap. Just because you know who Jesus is, it does not mean that you're automatically mentally healthy, right? It's like there's personal work you have to put in. So how does it affect your relationship with God, like when you're codependent?
I took good notes on this one.
Shoot it at me. Shoot it to me. Yeah.
Good notes on this one. So, codependence is dependence on the flesh. A soul dependent on the flesh. So,
you can deep. So,
I mean, it is. So it's like being codependent can make it really difficult to hear from God, because how can you be codependent on your flesh and dependent on God at the same time?
Right.
I was saying also that codependence wants to serve your fear and anxiety, right? Which God's character intends to cast out. So how can you be codependent serving your fear and anxiety, and then also, asking God to cast out? You can't live both lives. because it's like you're serving two masters. And I don't think people see that. You know what I mean? Like, I certainly didn't, so it's hard to recognize it like that. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh man, like, I was getting hit last night. I was taking these. You know what I mean? Like, you really cannot fully depend on God and have codependence. You know what I mean? So codependence, like I said, it's all based in fear and anxiety. And God, dependence on God is all based on faith.
Right.
So do you want to serve the fear and anxiety or the faith? And I'm pretty sure people don't want to be codependent, but sometimes they choose that because they have more dependence on human interaction than their relationship with God. Maybe it's the dependence on somebody being there in the physical. And they're like, well, I need this physical. I need somebody here.
Mm-hmm.
God is not physically right next to me, so I'm just going to depend on this right now, But they're not realizing that they're doing that, but I do see that a lot.
God's sneaky. God's sneaky. That makes me feel like, it almost paints the theme of our faith really to not be codependent. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because God is invisible, right? So it's like he's on purpose, like trying to tear away your negative attachments to people, to being so dependent upon people. Man, look at that. See?
Exactly. And that's why I was like, I really love that we're talking about this, because when I was reflecting, I was really, doing a heart check, because I was like, wow, you know what I mean? This is what the faith is all about. It's to solely depend on God. We are not here to depend on people. We are not here to be of this earth. You know what I mean? We're in it, but we shouldn't be of it. But here I am, you know what I mean? Or here people are like in this codependent phase, depending on the earth and people of this earth to give them everything that God says that He can give you. So you are so right. That's so true.
Dang, man. See, I got new this kind of faith. People with codependency need some salvation. That's what we need. We need Jesus, literally. So Aurelia asked the question. She said, "Is it possible to have a level of healthy codependency, like with a significant other or spouse?" So if it's healthy, is it even called codependency? Is it still called that?
I was gonna say the word, if it's healthy, it wouldn't even be called codependency, but you can call that a soul tie. So there's negative soul ties, and then there's positive soul ties.
There's positive soul ties.
Absolutely, have a positive soul tie with your spouse, because you're merging yourself as one. You know what I mean? So your souls are interconnected and you're moving as one. You know what I mean? So there is a reliance on each other as partners under Christ. You know what I mean? But codependency, because it's of the flesh, I wouldn't call that codependency. I would just say that's a soul tie. That's a soul tie under Christ, and you can have that when you're, in a relationship or married, I should say.
Well, tell me this. I love how you just brought a little bit of practicality to what a soul tie is. So like how would you describe a soul tie, like outside of like I ain't gonna say outside of the biblical context. I still wanted to be biblical. But I wanted you to kind of break down the definition of a soul tie just a little bit more, because you mentioned like, okay, that's two people that's together that's moving as one. And I just want to see if we can get even more simpler terms of what a soul tie. If you were explaining it to somebody, because I know in your line of work you can't be overtly spiritual, right? Like I know. So how would you explain like a soul tie to somebody else in your line of work at work?
I think it's a very deep rooted interconnectedness with somebody. However, soul ties can be formed in different ways. When you're sharing your body, you can create a soul tie.
Right.
When in any relationship, if you're having sex, if you're sharing your body, that can become a soul tie, right? So a soul tie is an interconnectedness with someone in some way, a strong one, and so
and that can happen ways outside of sex too, then, right? So like if you two are just close to each other, or you guys went through a tragedy with each other or something like that, right?
Yeah, you can form those, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can definitely form those. If you go through a tragedy, if you overcome something, you can have such a deep interconnected bond with a friend, but it's like a soul, like we share our souls, you know, kind of are housed together, you know, in some specific way. It could have been through that tragedy, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Through this experience. So yeah, but there's a lot of, I mean, there's negative ones and there's positive ones. Sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
create ties of people that are meant to be broken, or codependency, you know what I mean? Soul ties with like, I needed this person and you connected with them on all these different levels. So you created a tie, but they're toxic. But you can create these soul ties with people, with friends, with your spouse, with your children. But again, that's not codependency. That's like an interconnected bond, you know.
Yeah, because I was about to say, I feel like with parents and children, that's pretty much a soul tie too, right? But that's good, right? That's a
Right.
good. It's a
Yeah.
good soul tie.
And I just thought about that. I was saying, I was like, yeah, we definitely have soul ties for our children. So,
Yeah, it makes me think about, there's a story in the Bible where David and Jonathan, they say that their souls were knit together, right? And I feel like that's okay. That's like close friendship, right?
yes.
But they went through a very traumatic experience with each other. You know what I mean? So like, I get how that can happen. Um, so wait, before, I don't want to move on from like the faith yet. Okay, so um, if it's affecting your relationship with God, um, so do you think that even it can affect like the way that you forgive people? Your codependency, like your dependency upon a person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It can really affect them. The reason why I'm saying that is because when you're codependent, you're overly forgiving.
you're
Like,
overly forgiving,
you're
right?
like, you know what? Like, I know that this happened, but you know what? Like, and you accept them back over and over, because there's, again, you're allowing your fear to win, your fear of being wrong. So you're like, you know what? I know they wronged me. Like, your rational mind can say they wronged me and that was not okay. I'm not okay with that behavior, but I'm more not okay with them not being here. So
Right.
like, then you reach out and say, you know what? Fine, you know, and like you let them back in,
Mm-hmm.
and it just becomes a cycle, because when you're codependent, you're gonna have codependent behavior. Your boundaries are almost non-existent. So it's like, because you just want that person to be there. So yeah, when it comes to forgiving, you're overly forgiving and then resentful, because these are really behaviors you don't like, but you
Mm-hmm.
have them back multiple times to continue whatever behavior they're displaying. You feel resentment. So
Wow. Oh, and then also, okay. So, what if also if somebody recently I came across a situation that I had a conversation with somebody that was saying like, okay, I feel like okay, they were saying that I think that they were saying that they do believe that their relationship is toxic, right?
mm-hmm.
But they were saying like, but I feel like this person, might have some mental issues, and but they're nice, so I don't want to leave them. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to stay with them to kind of help them out. I feel like I could change them one day. Like so that's like mass codependency also, right? Like wanting to change somebody. I feel like feeling like you have to be the savior of another person, right?
Yeah, let me just be transparent here. So I was like, ouch, ouch, everything you were saying. I was like, dang, you know, like, oh, I've been here so much. Let me just, you know what, I have to be transparent. So, yes, because that was me for a very long time.
Yeah.
And it is a codependency. And let me just say why. I feel like on the surface we think that that's just good heartedness. You know what I mean? We see the good in people, because a lot of people that I've met are like this too. They just have really big hearts and they're like, well, we just see the good in people, so we just want to like help. You know. However, you begin to believe that your only purpose in the relationship is to help somebody overcome something, you know, and they could be, you know, mentally, they could be depressed, they could be angry, they could be all that. But you're only being the giver in that relationship because you feel like, well, now my only purpose in the relationship is to do this, is to do the
Oh,
giving,
so you
giving,
won't
giving.
even expect no reciprocation, huh? You don't care about it.
And it's like innately you want it. You do want the reciprocation. However, you feel like in order for me to have purpose, in order for them to stay here, I'm gonna have to keep helping them in some way. Like you develop like a belief that you have to be in this position to constantly help people out of their, funk or out of their depression and all that, because you started to form a belief earlier on that my role in relationships is just to help somebody get out. Even if it's at my own expense, even though innately you need the reciprocation to keep. That's a codependent behavior. You just want to keep them there.
Dang, that's I guess that's the bittersweetness of a big heart, huh? It's like that. What can happen sometimes.
You know what? Oh man, yeah. Oh yeah.
Dang.
So, but then you gotta ask yourself too. It's like I have a really big heart. However, I mean, this is just from a believer's perspective. It's like I have a big heart, but I need to have the biggest heart for God. And if I do, then my lens of the way that I behave is going to serve God and not man. And if He calls me to serve man in specific ways, I will. But there was a quote I saw the other day where it said, "It's not that we love too hard; it's that we love too long." Like we stay in some. It's like we stay there way too long, and I've been there where it's like, is that called by God? You know what I mean? No, because He told me to get out like a year before, 2 years before I got out of something, and I was burned. Yeah. And it's like, so we just have to ask ourselves, yeah, we have a big heart, but what's our real intention here?
Right. So it's not like trying to take away that vulnerability, but just know what your own personal barriers are, right? Like just make sure that you are handling yourself right first, right? You are taking care of yourself first, right? So all right, so what time is it? 8:46. Dang, time. All right, so let's go ahead and do this then. What are some practical ways that we can build some confidence? What are some and wait, before I ask that's my last question. Do you have any notes that maybe I didn't ask that you want to share with me real quick before I go there?
Actually, from what I'm looking at, no, we talked about everything that I
Okay, cool. So what's some practical ways that we can like build self-confidence?
So practical ways that I always say is reflect and self-assess, do a self-assessment,
How often should we do that?
Huge, just reflect on your behavior. If you're constantly in a cycle that you don't like, assess yourself, like, why am I doing this, and then meditate. The reason why I say meditate is because we're so busy every single day with social media, children, jobs, all of these different things that we have noise around us all the time. And do we really ever have time to just like lay? And I'm not even going to tell you have to put on sound stuff. You could. It makes it better sometimes, like putting on nice soft sounds. But you don't even have to. You could just go in a space to just lay down and have quiet and just think. Thoughts come flowing naturally. Like it's not really a whole lot you need to do,
right?
Because that's gonna fuel a lot of thoughts. And then my something I like is to write, and I feel like that's helped a lot of my clients is to just write it down and make it plain. Like just start writing. I mean, seriously, there's no prompt. Just write and just say like how you felt today, and then how you felt today is gonna go into how you feel in general about yourself, about life. It just does that. So writing it down and making it plain, and then you'll look back and be like, wow, I felt a lot of things today, So that's build confidence because you're spending all the things I named is you spending more and more time with me, and you have to spend time with yourself to build confidence. You cannot avoid that. If you avoid spending time with
yourself, you can't run away from yourself.
Exactly. So don't avoid yourself. Build that confidence up, be with yourself, and reflect and grow.
Right. So like I've noticed this also like about prayer, right? Like prayer, I know that prayer is like initially like a conversation with God, right? But I feel like also the reason why it's so important, and I do believe in short, quick prayers, right? Because you don't always have that time to be by yourself or in your prayer closet or something like that. But I think you should make that time because when you sit alone with God, I feel like that's you finding out about you also. You know, it's like it's a conversation with God, but you finding out about you, especially when you add writing to it. Especially when you add writing to it, because you get to see how you feel. And I feel like we have a lot of feelings throughout the day, but we don't always know how to articulate them. We don't know the words, you know what I mean, to say. So I've written some stuff down. I'm like, oh, that's how I felt. Okay, like that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Hiding is powerful. Time alone is powerful. And God will give, because you're being intentional about that time alone, God will give you the right words to say or to think, or the right revelation in those moments. Like I said, last night when I was writing this, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? Because I was reflecting at the same time that I was writing notes about this topic, and God just was hitting my heart in different ways. And I was like, okay, Lord, I know this is me. I need to go from it. I need to help people, and help myself. He was, so a long time is so healthy. Don't stray from it. Don't avoid it.
Dang. All right, y'all see that, right? Prayer can help heal codependency, man. Well, I think it should be a part of the process, right?
Yes, definitely a part of the process.
Yeah, I definitely see that. Well, I said I couldn't keep you forever. Dang, it sucks, but no, I've learned a lot. I think one of the main things from this session. Do you do that when you with your clients? Like, do you ask them like, what's one of the main things that that stuff?
Yeah, sometimes it's like the first or second session. I'll be like, yeah, what did you get from this? Did you get?
Right. It's one of the things that that really hit me was you saying that codependency is like you serving your fear and your anxiety, right? So that means that fear and anxiety can pop up, it can attack us, but we don't have to bow down to it. You know what I mean? Like if we go the opposite direction, right? Where we just don't serve it, even though it's there. Because I feel like sometimes the acknowledgement of it means I have to give into it for some people. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm anxious, I gotta act anxious right now. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel my anxiety. And if I don't act this out, my body's gonna explode. I know I've had those moments where I feel like I'm about to blow up right now. You know what I'm saying?
You can allow yourself to process how you feel. It's not wrong to feel it.
Right.
It's wrong to give truth to it.
Right.
Anxiety, yeah. You can't give truth to those thoughts, but you can feel like recognize that I'm anxious right now. I'm really anxious, and I'm starting to have different thoughts. And Mark said earlier, daily affirmations are so important, and they really are, because you're having all this negative talk in your head, and you have to have some positive talk to combat that. Like, I know this is not true. I'm not giving life to you. Like, tell your thoughts, I'm not giving life to you. This isn't true. I'm just going through an anxious moment. Let me go outside for a minute. Let me go outside for a minute. Let me do some deep breathing. This isn't not true. But you have to constantly speak against those negative thoughts. And you could allow yourself to feel it, because recognize, why is it here? What just happened to make me start feeling anxious? Did somebody just say something? Am I in a specific setting where I just don't feel right? Why do I feel this way? But just don't give truth to all the negativity that the anxiety and the fear is trying to breathe at the moment.
Right, because if you don't feel it at all, then you'll never be able to tell where it comes from. Right, you can't locate the trigger if you don't feel it at all. If you try to suppress it,
right,
right, and I think that, like, as we grow older, it becomes almost habitual. Like it's second nature. You don't, right? Like, I feel like part of the process of like taking care of your mental health is catching things and then like becoming intentional about things that you do kind of unconsciously, like some of the habits that we have that we don't notice at all. It's like about being aware and catching that kind of stuff, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
All right, Alana, I love you. I appreciate you. You do have one more question. Do you want to answer that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Can codependency be hurtful when you need someone to vent to, or writing a journal can substitute that?
That's a really good question. It's a really good question, because I don't want to make it seem like if you want somebody to vent to, it's a codependent behavior, because that's not
right. Because we should, right? We should want.
Yeah, we should have that God-given the right people at the right time to talk to or to vent to, venting is actually really good. And the reason it is so good is because it allows you to process how you're feeling at that moment. You should be processing your feelings. That's actually one of the best ways to do it, is to talk it out. So it only becomes codependent when you can't ever sit with a challenging emotion without, like, I need to talk to somebody. I need to talk to somebody. And the fact that I can't, I have to sit with it until I talk to somebody.
Ooh, I like the words you use, when you can't sit with a challenging emotion. A challenging emotion, right?
Yes. And that's where the journal writing is substituted, because it's like, don't allow yourself to sit with an emotion all day just because you didn't talk to somebody, or just because that person wasn't comfortable. You know, I've been there where I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel so right now. But like, I can't talk to this person. So I'm just going to feel like this until I can be on the phone. You know what I mean? It's like, girl, you know what I mean? Let it out. Otherly.
And also, I've been on both ends of this. I've been in relationships where this has happened to me, and I've done it to other people too, where like I'll get mad that the person ain't available. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pissed off that they not available for me. I'm making it about me. You know what I'm saying? Why didn't you answer the phone? Like, I needed you.
Exactly. Like, how, like, I'm going through something. Like, how could you not answer your phone? And then going through all that. Yeah, and so we can't project it. That's a whole other conversation. You can't project how you're feeling on somebody else, because that can be codependent too, where it's like everything you're feeling is all somebody else's fault all the time.
Oh,
and that's not.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. You be feeling bad and then looking at the other person like, why? What are you doing? Why did you do that?
It's true.
All right. So Alana, we'll talk after, after this, and I can't wait till the next time we can set this up again. I really do believe, look, I'm about to give you a couple words of affirmation. I do believe that you are gifted, and I appreciate your work for the kingdom. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like this right here is kingdom building. And I feel like the revelation we just got about codependency and faith is huge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's a message that we can both carry on, like, outside of this, right? So that's dope. Once again, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank y'all, everybody, for coming through. I hope this blessed y'all. I hope it brought some peace to your households and to yourself, like, when you're alone. All right, Alana. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
All right, bye.